Erasmus, after yesterday's loss, Pep is being called Bitter Mikel. Ateta, I don't know, but Arsenal fans will say I'm just finding a way to drag Ateta into someone else's
Of
loss.
course, that's exactly what you're doing.
That's not me. The media said it, and I'm just reiterating that after Pep was bitter, they didn't find anyone to draw conclusions or similarities to. They said Pep is speaking like bitter Mikel.
I
It's like
ca-
the two of them enter delusionary states when they are pained.
yeah, I can imagine if Mikel is already better, then having a better Mikel
Bro,
must really be extreme. But I guess it's what they say, right? Everyone has a plan until they are hit in the face. Like if you've not gone trophyless before, it's easy to say you are honorable and you have composure. It's the same way. Like if like the trope that they use that if you've not faced
yeah,
sexual temptation before, do not brag that you're a virgin. I
yeah,
think it's
you
it's
are
quite
chasing.
similar in this case. Like if you've not lost before, you don't understand it when people are better in losing positions. You're like, oh, be graceful, be respectful. But when you
He said,
lose, you know that
if you don't have money, you can't say you are modest.
yes, you can't say you
Because
are modest. You've not been tempted. Like you've not had the room to explore
yeah,
some of your emotions. And yesterday was quite clear to see, right? You could see that he really did care about it. You would think that after winning so
no,
many
he
trophies in
did.
England,
Yeah,
he'll be okay. Like everyone was like, yeah, sure, you
he's
feel.
going trophyless this season, so obviously Pep will care. Pep will care about it. Because I don't think there are many seasons in his career. I don't think there's any season in his career that he's gone trophyless.
Yeah, actually, yeah,
Right.
that's true.
So
Because even in his first season in Man City, I think they won one of the domestic trophies.
yeah. So obviously it's tough for him. But if there's anyone who can best teach him how it's done, Ateta is there. Like this guy has gone trophyless for 5 straight years.
Finally, Ateta has something to also give to Pep.
Give to Pep, yes, navigating the trophyless era. He
Yeah, I can
needs to
imagine.
learn how to,
Yeah, it's like don't worry about it. Tell them next season we're gonna come back better. We're gonna come back stronger. Make some excuses
I'm
about
sure
your injuries.
I'm sure Pep finished and called and asked Mikel, how have you been doing it over the past 5 years? What do you want the players to follow you?
How insulting, Pep! I can't believe that you did that, Joseph. No, but yeah.
Ah,
On the flip side,
yeah,
though, how excited are you to see like a non-conventional team win a trophy? I think we've had the Crystal Palace with the FA Cup and then Newcastle with the
yeah,
Carabao Cup, right?
yeah. To be very honest, too, this is the thing that starts to say, Charlie Loki, don't insult Ten Hag like that.
Yes, it's not
Because
easy.
it wasn't that easy to do.
Yeah, it's not easy. But maybe also it follows in the tradition of Man United winning the FA Cup, especially after the horrible season which they've had. And even when we speak
Yeah,
of the year of, I don't say smaller teams, but the year of
yeah.
upsets with trophies, maybe United might end up winning the trophy. And then, like, the options are United and
But
Spurs,
that
which,
they cheat the system too much. They are doing terrible and then finding the shortcuts to enter the top dogs.
like,
But
legit,
I think
legit, I've heard rumblings for change of the rules, like, and it's
I don't
going
think
to other places.
I don't. You see, that's the thing because when you start advocating for the change of the rules, now it would mean a club like Newcastle could also a club like Crystal Palace could also be punished now on their chances to play Europa League football
Mhm.
just because you are going after the rules in the name of Man United or Tottenham, right?
Yeah.
So you also need to be careful of
No, that
what
doesn't.
opportunities you are passing
Why?
away
Why is it? Because
from.
if they don't play UCL, then they have to play Europa. Then it means Crystal Palace won't get to play it.
No, no, but if you are arguing for it, the rules are European League rules. So
Yes.
they cut across that if you there are backdoor entries to all of these. So you cannot say, oh, let's snap off the backdoor entry to the UCL, but then let's keep the backdoor entry to the Europa League. Because it's that same backdoor entry that United benefited from last season that kicked Chelsea into the Conference League.
Okay. No, but
So
I
to
think I
have
think it's two jurisdictions, right? Like, the FA Cup one is the Premier. I think it's the UEFA says that well, if you win. this domestic trophy. Or I don't know, is it,
Yeah.
I may need to understand what it means. Maybe is it the FA
No, no. So
who is making this rule or
those who are advocating for it is
mm,
essentially saying you should avoid shortcut qualification to European competitions
hmm.
because sometimes teams that are not doing well end up
Okay.
using those shortcuts to enter the
Oh,
fold.
okay.
That reduces the quality of the competition. So,
Yes.
like Crystal Palace, per their ranking on the table, would
Hmm.
not be playing European football,
Yes.
but now they will. So, if you are
Yes.
advocating against these backdoor rules, you are also going to punish a club like Crystal Palace for it,
Yes.
right? I don't think maybe Manchester United not having the revenue for not playing UCL, anybody cares that much.
I
But
don't
I think people will start to care if Crystal Palace doesn't get that opportunity and that revenue and that exposure that their
let,
fans would have gotten this
okay. Now
exposure.
I understand like the challenge. Yes, my problem. This is the first time
Yeah,
that a small team is winning this. This is traditionally won by big teams, even including the Europa. It's traditionally won by big teams. Plus, if
yeah.
Crystal Palace doesn't get uh, an opportunity to play European football, especially when they actually didn't qualify for it, then I don't see where the jeopardy is. I think for me, like what we are beginning to see more of, and this is an increasing trend, what we're beginning to see more of is that teams would struggle because of the competitiveness in the league. And closer to the end of the season, when they still have a chance within European comps or cup competitions,
Mhm.
tend to abandon the league competitiveness,
Yeah.
which is not good for the league, which is not good for the league in any way. I'm
No, no,
coming, I'm coming.
it's not good
And
for
then
which league.
what they are going to do is that they are going to stack up for Europe. And mostly they do have the
It's not good
resources
for
to
which
be able to load up at the last part of the season to give it a raring go. So for me, like,
no. So look, I don't think that no matter what happens, a team goes into a match to say that, well, I don't want to put up my best foot,
have you met Man
right?
United?
Because yeah, I've met Man United. That's what I'm coming to. I've met Man United, right? I've met Man United. And teams genuinely have to make risk averse decisions
Mm,
because they have players and they have scenarios that they have to deal with. So, for instance, United goes to play in EPL. They play Lenny Euro. He gets injured. But in their season, whatever that result would have done has zero impact on their positioning in the league.
mhm,
So, sure, he's one of their best defensive talents, but they lose him for playing him in the league. If you were a manager, what choice would you make?
mhm.
Right? Like teams always make these risky decisions. It's the same way in which, and you see, the EPL is very selfish. When people make these decisions and it benefits the EPL, everyone shuts up. When they make these decisions to undermine other campaigns and it benefits the EPL, they shut up. So for cup competitions where the championship clubs are also involved and
Yeah.
they want the best experience to be able to measure up when they
Yes.
get promoted to the EPL, how do they feel? Nobody goes to complain that people are undermining the cup
But
competitions
people do.
by
People
their
do. People
squad B
say they use,
or
yeah, they use
whatever.
the young players and it's not competitive. And I think there's been proposal for some kind of reforms into
I
how
don't
those
look. The
competitions are
football
absorbed.
world cannot get a perfect scenario where every single match is the best elite and competitive.
Li-
That is too. That is too
Do you know the
hypothetical.
Club World Cup? Do you know the Club World
Yeah,
Cup typically you didn't play with your full squad. It used to be that kind. I remember Chelsea had to like split their squad into two.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
it's just quite recently that people have started taking it seriously. So when they expanded it, clubs just said it's our players will be on preseason. So we're gonna play with uh, those who are available. And then what you have in
Yeah.
that instance is they came out and said, no, if you undermine the competitiveness, they are going to punish you. And it
But then
was sort of a carrot
everybody's
and a stick.
complaining about it.
No, do you know what they've done? They've
Everybody's
increased the
complaining
revenue.
about it.
They have increased the
Yeah.
revenue for the Club World Cup now. So it's sort of like carrot and a stick situation. So now clubs are actually preparing, and that's why you're seeing summer signings being done very, very early. No, it's true. We are seeing summer
No, I
signings being
agree
done
with
very,
what
very
you're
early for
saying.
them to go and compete
I'm
in
just
there.
saying that that doesn't make it right, right? Because for whoever is that competitive, so look at it in both ways. for whoever is that elite player that you are going to be constantly demanding from the start of the season in all competitions, if this ideal complaint and scenario is adhered to from the start of the season in all competitions to the end of the season to the Club World Cup, every single player starts complaining, which is what we heard from the start of the season, that elite players are playing too many matches.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, when coaches do rotations to give quote unquote less elite players opportunities, everybody says they are sacrificing the quality. In whose favor? Are they sacrificing the quality of the fans' experience, of the league wanting more media appeal, or should they care more about the players? I think people treat these things and discuss them in isolation. And then the same people who are saying, oh, they are sacrificing quality here, the same people who go and say elite players are playing too much matches, the same people who go and say sub elite players are not getting opportunities in the league. How do you want coaches and clubs to balance out these competing interests? They some way, somehow have to survive this ecosystem, right? So,
Yeah, but
I mean,
but the way in which you see United do this is horrible. I mean, to be fair,
they've
credit to
made a
them.
specialty out of it. They've made a specialty out of it. That is
They
that
prepare
is
to
now the
bottle
United
you.
way. Bottle the league, and when you realize that you can't save it, ignore it and focus on the one you can save.
But I
Because
think it's
look
also
at
it's,
last
it's
year's
also a bit
Cup final.
psychological, right? It's also a bit psychological, right? Like when you just feel
Yeah.
like there's nothing more to gain over here. Like even in our lives, like there's nothing more. You check
Oh,
out and then you lock in where you feel like
yeah.
there's something for you over there.
And I don't blame these guys for doing that, because imagine if, you see, this is my thing with the the sporting world. These same media people, if United went on and bottled the Europa League and went on to even win their games in the league and still end up 15th or 14th, they won't spare them.
Mm-hmm.
They would really, really lambast them for such a horrible season. They didn't even win anything. They didn't come close to a winning quarter. The same media. United says, okay, we want to win something, knowing very well that we've lost the league. You guys are not taking the league serious. What are you focusing on Europa for? Bro, what do you want these guys to do?
So the
They have to
moral
pick
of
a
the
side.
story is do what you do you
Do
do you
you, bro.
do you do you.
Do,
Okay.
do,
Okay.
the media would never be for you. Just do you. And if they push for them to change the rules, I'm sure these guys will find another loophole to try and compete. If they change the Europa League rule, United will try and then win every domestic cup
I've
they can.
never seen a club that says for them they are not going to qualify finching for. They will not do it. The football is there, you can play, compete, and go through. No,
No,
always doing the calculation, always trying to get the back door. It is becoming
but to be very honest, see, for me, that is smart, really.
no.
Because,
How is
no,
that
no,
smart?
wait.
No.
That is smart. That is smart because the amount of games they would have to win to qualify through the league versus the amount of games they would have to win to qualify through Europa. Statistically, they have a much better chance with less demand on them if they go through Europa. Because Europa is a cup competition. How many games do they have to play? Look, every single week they are playing league. Like, you know, the demands on them to win every single game or win majority of their games
It's
and score
I
so many goals.
it's the same demand on every team over there, and they are clearly
Ah, so they pick their strategy. Pick your own. Pick your own and
Manchester
focus on it,
United is clearly doing them. Okay.
bro. But yeah, I think I wanted a few thoughts on the FA Cup final, because there were two situations that were interesting there. The first one is Dean Henderson's supposed clearance outside of the box,
Yeah.
and he didn't get a red card for it. Like, but he used his hands outside, clearly outside of the box. He used his hands, and the justification from VAR was, well, the ball was going out, not inside the pool. It was going sideways already, so it wasn't a goal scoring chance denied. But clearly, this keeper slaps the ball before Haaland could play it. So if Haaland played it, how do you predict the direction of the ball when Haaland has not touched it yet to justify the VR decision not to give him a red card?
Yeah.
And I wanted to get your thoughts on it because eventually that becomes the Achilles heel for for City because he made some wonderful saves in the game, and he went on to also save the penalty, and then they went on to score. So you are wondering what exactly what exactly happened here.
Maybe the
Pep
referees are
said they
the
should go and
referees.
ask. When they asked Pep, he said, "Go and ask them, go ask Vieira and
Yeah,
the
maybe
referees."
the
But
referees are
he
also
doesn't know.
doing them because it looks like that's what everyone wants to do now. But no, I think I do agree that that was a red card, and you can understand
Yeah,
Pep Guardiola's frustrations in that instance. Then, which for me, like especially when it has a huge impact on the game, looking at the performance of Dean Henderson. But all in all,
yeah,
I think that Manchester City had lots of opportunities to win the game, to do everything that they could to win the game, and
yeah,
clearly they didn't make the most of that opportunity. So it is very very hard to argue. Yes, I know that this would have shifted the dynamic of the game, but it is very very hard to argue then that they shouldn't have won. But for me, I'm not remiss about the referees or like VAR. I think they've consistently shown me that uh, they are not perfect and that there are
yeah.
times where they can be blatantly.
I saw your reaction on the Nicholas Jackson red card,
Yes,
and
on the
and you
slower.
being cautious like this sounds like I'm being salty, but
Yes, yes, no, it's true because it's the level of inconsistency, right? Like earlier in the week,
yeah,
Tyron Mings had elbowed someone too in the same way, but we didn't see any action being taken against Tyron Mings. And then this week, you see a much
he
softer.
wasn't wearing blue.
Yeah, so yeah. So sometimes it's like the inconsistency of the decision, right? And I do feel
Yeah,
that referees, as much as they are not perfect, it is somehow a part of the game, right? Like
yeah.
what they see is what they call. And I hate the fact that football is going to the degree where there is much more emphasis on the technical accuracy of it rather than like, it's more like the letter of the law
Executional
rather
accuracy.
than embracing the spirit. So technology, of course, is affecting the rules of the game, and we need to adapt. And you have moments where it's showing that we need to adapt, and we should learn from. We should make the most of those moments. But it is not to remove the entire agency of the referees and give it to someone else. For me, like it just doesn't feel right.
I have a feeling if I was a referee, I would just disrespect any VAR call just for the
Yeah,
culture of it.
for ego, and for shaggy reasons.
Just to be the one who be like, I don't care about what you said. I still stand by my own field decision and just move on with the game.
No, but
But yeah, what you're saying is true. I mean, one other thing was how do you get a penalty in a final and your first choice penalty taker decides to give it to someone else and the person
do you
scores?
know this is not the first time he has done it?
Yeah, yeah, this is
Yeah.
not the first time.
And Guardiola came out and said, "Don't do that again." Because I think it was same. He gave it to
Yeah.
Gundogan or someone like that, and they missed it.
And I think that game they won eventually, and he
Yeah,
said that, oh, it was good sportsmanship, but he's not sure that if they had lost the game because of that, he'll be sitting here smiling. So he will just say, "Don't do it again,"
yes.
and they repeated it and lost the game because of it.
No,
And
but
I'm sure he enters the dressing room and just tears them apart. It's
yes.
like, what did you guys do? Who asked you?
It's I can understand why he did that. Like he's been out for so long. Mamouche has been the one almost carrying the attack within that period, and the opportunity to score a goal in the final, like it was going to have an upside. But the first thing is to win the final. Like the first thing is
Charlie.
to win the final. But we sometimes also ignore the other side. Haaland has been out injured for so long. He struggled when he came back. Within the game, he was struggling a bit. If he's low on confidence and he feels like there's another teammate who is much more confident and the person is more likely to score, I think it's fair to make the decision to hand it over to them.
But to be very honest, to be Erling Haaland and to say that you are low on confidence on penalty, this is not a free kick outside the box. This is not some outside long range shot. This is a penalty. I think whether or not he's low on confidence. In fact, penalties are what strikers use to get out of low confidence when they are struggling to score and they are on a goal drought. Penalties are what they use to get easy
Yeah,
goals, to
like
get out
I
of
mean,
close
of
outs.
course, like someone can also say you are Andrew Stepete, like coach of this team, this kind of person, this kind of how can you go through this? Some of so you may not always be able to understand. Like for me, it's very hard to argue with the fact that if someone says I don't feel particularly 100% in this moment and say, oh no, that was your moment. It
But
is
if you
you.
watch the scenes, it was like Haaland was holding the ball, and Mamouche went and made a case for it, and Haaland handed it over. So it's not like Haaland picked the ball and looked for Mamouche and went to give it to him. He was persuaded to give it up. And if you're a first choice penalty taker in a match of this caliber and you are persuaded to give it up, you have to take whatever backlash that comes with it. Because in that
So that
moment,
one's
the
fair.
responsibility to make sure that the ball is at the back of your net, the back of the net, is on you. You alone in that team. So whatever decision you make with the ball, if it involves handing it over to someone else, you better be sure that person lands it
Yeah,
at the back of the
and
net.
that's what motivates me to think it's a confident thing because Haaland
Well,
would always want to take that add up to the goal tally. I think if you are already not feeling 100% and someone is there looking confident, you're like, bro, like
but
just take it.
even the fear Haaland imposes in keepers when he stands to take a penalty
Yeah.
versus
No, I don't think
like,
for me, like of course we don't know what happened on the pitch. We don't know
mhm,
what influenced them to take the decision. Is the balance of two theories for me. One, that
yeah,
Haaland in an FA Cup final thought it would be nice for Marmoush or his teammates to score it
yeah,
when they were was it they were already a
down,
goal down, right? When they were already a goal
yeah,
down to say, okay, let me find something nice. It's not a winning goal, it's nothing, is let me do something nice to the teammates versus I've been struggling with my injury, came back, I've been struggling not finding a confidence even within this game. And there's someone who is super confident and can help me in this moment. Like let them have a go. Yes, of course. I know if I take it, I'll score. But they are more confident in this moment. So let me trust them.
well,
So
someone
yeah, I
said
think it's a balance for me.
someone said confidence doesn't buy goals. That's what we saw. But yeah, I mean, it was Man City fans were sad because they are now experiencing what Arsenal fans have been experiencing all their
Come on, they'll
lives.
get used to it. They should just give it time to settle.
That says they will bounce back. They'll be back next season. And if he comes and he's doing wonders, people will start clapping again. Pep Guardiola is back. He's the genius.
Ateta
Charlie.
is waiting for them. And Amorim.
Oh, this thing, I don't even want to comment on it. All right, so I mean, the main thing we wanted to talk about today, even though we are 23 minutes in, was to talk about Real Madrid's rebuild for the summer. And we've seen some of them confirmed signings, some of them rumors of elements that they are bringing in to rebuild the squad and overhaul the team. Not overhaul in terms of changing a lot of players, but in terms of its identity, its resilience and philosophy, and bring some fresh air around the team. And it looks like this season, Barca was the club that had that in Spain because Hansi Flick had come in and it's brought a breath of fresh air, leaving with Xavi leaving and all that. And now Madrid feel like they are the place where Barca was with Xavi. So now it's now for them to also do their own. Carlo, it's okay. You've done your best. Can you walk out the door and go to Brazil? And then let's focus on doing the stuff that we want to do. And so they've touted bringing in Jabi Alonso as a new manager, Trent Alexander-Arnold as right back. They've signed Hoyson from Bournemouth as a new centre back. And you're wondering, Jabi Alonso plays a three back, a back three with two wing backs. How do these rebuilds picture or sort of paint out Madrid for the upcoming season? I think we'll be lucky enough to see elements of it in the Club World Cup if they get a lot of these signings over by then. But how do you see Madrid shaping up with this rebuild? Do you think it's time for the rebuild, and do you think that the people that they are bringing in are likely to give them the things that they want to see next season?
So for me, like there are so many questions with regards to what Xabi Alonso can do. I think more of what people have been able to predict has not has not been based on the philosophy or like, let me say, the play of Xabi Alonso, but in terms of his capacity and his capability, like in terms of his football knowledge, just them knowing that, well, he's brilliant enough to make do something of this mess. If you get what I mean.
Yeah,
Like Xabi Alonso, as much as he played a back three with Bayer Leverkusen, um, I don't think that I don't think that it is specifically the structure. I think more of the philosophy of how he wants to play
yeah,
and the kind of like players that he has available is what pushed him to do the back three. Because I think there are some games where Leverkusen has actually played we've seen him play with the back four. It's more of his
yeah,
principles, his emphasis on positional play, like like dynamic ball movement, using like the flanks, creating width on the pitch. So I think that he is going to find a way. And if Madrid actually has to play a back three, he feels that's what's best for the team. I don't think that anyone is going to stand in his way, especially if they can have the kind of season that they saw Leverkusen have.
for me,
So
just a quick one on this. I think if you are playing a back three and you have someone like Trent as a right wing back, I
yeah,
have a feeling that will probably be Trent's best position, because we've always complained about him not being an ideal midfielder.
yeah,
Neither is he an ideal right back because of his defensive like inaccuracies. But
mhm.
he's really good going forward, and his delivery and his chance creation and his pinpoint passes and crosses are really on point. If you look at that, the best system to favor someone like him not to expose his defensive flaws while utilizing his attacking prowess would be playing him as a right wing back where he has a right center back in a back three that gives him more assurance in defense in defensive work, right?
Yeah,
So
so
if you
I agree.
yeah, if you look at some of those pieces, it seems reasonable why maybe that structure would be the framework within which he tries to apply his principles.
No, I would think that if it makes sense, like he's going to do it. But I don't think that, like, I think that's one part of it. If you think about the Trent situation, that's one part of it. But Trent is not the only player within the squad that like he needs to adapt his football to. Not
Yeah.
even the most important one, if we are being honest. And um, no, I mean in terms of
Liverpool fans would be so happy to hear you say this too.
no, and secondly, like if you think about it, Trent has also played in a back four all throughout
Yeah,
his career. So
all his
switching to a
career,
back
yeah.
three might come with a different demand. And there are so many ways to play him in a back four, which still makes use of some of his attacking ability anyway.
That's fair.
So yeah, so I think it's going to go into his thinking, but I don't think it's one of the things that would shift his mind. What where I am more interested in is in the forward line. Um, there's some rumors as to Rodrigo leaving, but he's someone who has always said that he's committed to Madrid and he's going to stay there forever. So I presume he's going to stay. If they play a back three, you can see him as one of the holding tens, right, between him and
Yeah,
Vinicius, and then allowing Mbappe to thrive. Maybe Vinicius plays as a uh, right winger, I don't know, cutting in into the right wing, but then dropping back to defend, or maybe Rodrigo does that and Vinicius is in the inside tens. But then they also talk about the pathway for players like Adagule, like seeing the
yeah,
way he used Florian Wirtz, like can he use
yeah,
Adagule in the very same way? So he has so much talent at his disposal that you just know that, yeah, uh, there's some talent, there is a lot of talent there. It just needs to come together because that's been the problem with Madrid over the last 2 years. Like they've just not found the balance within the team. And it seems to
yeah,
like it's a recruitment problem, even though they have a lot of good players. But Xabi Alonso is quite good in getting different parts of players. We can see him mold and transform players into what he wants them to be. And that's what makes it quite exciting. And that's what makes him also the right fit because he can introduce balance not by having to radically alter the squad, but by sort of coming up with tactical flexibility to make use of the different abilities of the players.
Yeah. I mean, I think about it and I'm like, it's interesting that you're saying you are more interested in the attack because I think, look, with all the stick that we give Madrid's attack, they've not been that terrible this season.
Mm.
Madrid's defense has been the worst. If you look at like about two or three of the El Clasicos that they've lost, Madrid has led more of them than Barca had. And Barca
Yes.
has come back from those down times. Sometimes because of very silly individual errors, abysmal plays, like the defense has no cohesion. You are not sure what these players are doing in defense. And for me, I'm more interested in how Madrid recruit defensively, with some of their players also coming back from injury. But at this point, like Eder Militao, for instance, I don't think Madrid should be depending on him so much for the future because he's proven to be unavailable for a long period of time. And he's quick to return to injury after he comes back. So he's not a player that gets into rhythm and Madrid can depend on for defensive solidity.
Mm.
Out of all their centre backs, aside Raul Asensio, who has now popped in, only Rudiger seems to be like the very reliable, experienced centre back that they have. And now
Yeah.
they've signed Hoyson as well. I think about it, I'm like, Madrid needs a lot more defensive recruitment than anywhere on the field
Yeah.
because
They've
their
already
defense cost them a lot more games this season.
Yeah, so there are two parts to this, right? I think you are right, and that's why you can see that they've already made two defensive signings in Trent Alexander-Arnold and Hoyson, which sort of solves
Yeah,
the problem on the right. I think with Rudiger as a solid option, Raul Asensio also emerging as a very solid option, and if Eder Militao can come back, and it looks like he's going to come back, you can play three centre backs with that. You don't need to make an actual centre back signing. Alaba, I think the left back experiment is over. So most likely also as a centre back. But I
yeah,
think there's left back options, which is Mendy, Alaba, um, the other guy, I've forgotten his name. They are not the very young guy. I don't think they've become very very good options over time. Even though I do
yeah,
feel like uh, I've forgotten the name of the guy, uh, which is so funny. Frank Garcia, yes. So even though I think
uh,
Frank Garcia is a very good player, although he's young, so he needs some bit more experience and adaptation. And I think if
yeah,
we are going to play a wing back, he's also quite attacking and very very fast. He has that Jeremy Frimpong stature, so I can see him
yeah.
also feeling it in there. So even though they are like they really need to get a left back, I think that if they do not find a star left back on the market, they may like hedge their options and then go for someone that they can develop, given that they sort of have like some options in there. So, but
We've complained.
the second
Give
part
me a
of
quick
the
second.
defense up, sorry,
Yeah, we've complained about him playing this center midfielder, Kamavinga in left back, right?
yes,
We've complained about them playing Kamavinga in left back and all that. But with their defensive problems, I sort of find a lot more solidity in playing Kamavinga in left back and him shifting into defensive midfield sometimes to help out with a double pivot than sometimes even playing Alaba in left back
yes,
or
yes,
or playing men in left back. Because some of these players have just proven to be inconsistent throughout the
yes,
season.
yes. So for me, that's what makes me feel like they're probably done with their defense signings.
Yeah,
But yes, to the next point, a whole lot of their defensive problems has not just been the unavailability of the defense, because in the year they won the Champions League, a lot of their defenders were also out injured. It's been the attack because these guys are the first lines of pressure, the first lines of defense.
yeah,
They strictly refuse to follow, like work hard off the ball in terms of closing the spaces, in terms of closing down players, in terms of working hard up front to make sure that it's hard. And they've gotten bypassed. And secondly, it's also in the midfield. Like players like Tchouaméni are very, very good, but they are not very, very good at retaining and holding the ball. They are not very, very good at cycling the ball. They are very good at long cross, maybe some long crosses, pinpoint passes. So the loss of Tony Cruz over there has been huge. Ceballos was
yeah.
coming into play, but his physicality is a problem, and he's not also been super consistent. So I think they might go into the market, something that is going to drop Bellingham to be the guy now coordinating the attack and driving with the ball. But I think that they may need to go into the market and get like as Zubimendi kind of player, a Partey kind of player who can actually like hold up the defensive midfield. Beyond that, I think they are fine. Because I think people talk about a right
Do you
winger.
think they need another defensive midfield option?
I think they need a good central midfield option.
Because
No,
if you look at their midfield options in CDM in defensive midfield, they have Kamavinga and Chouameni. Chouameni, when he's played in CDM, has been great. I don't think he's the conductor that you want, but he takes the sting out of the game, and he's a lot more combative in terms of in that defensive role, right? The midfield options that they have now is Bellingham, Ada Gule, Modric. So, do you want someone to partner Bellingham in that role in that midfield, or
Modric,
because I
Modric is
think if you
leaving.
leave,
Modric is
yeah, if,
might be leaving at the end of the season. So, and they didn't replace Cruz, and it looks like Ceballos might also be leaving or might not continue. I'm not sure of where I heard this or what like the truth to this is. But the thing is that they need more bodies in midfield, and they need players like Chouameni is good, like you said. Kamavinga is good, but they are almost one and the same player in the sense that they are
yeah,
very very good at breaking up the play, but in terms of advancing the play, reading the floor very very well and conducting. And that's why Modric
isn't
has
that
still
what Ada Gule is for?
no, but Ada Gule, like, there's a lot of he can play in many positions, right? But he also lacks the physicality to play far deeper in midfield, as we've seen. So yeah, they've used him in some games by dropping him into midfield and allowing him to dictate play, pairing him up with a very strong six, which is good. But is that what you want to rely on over the course of the season? I'm not sure.
You know how I see the Madrid midfield, like an ideal Madrid midfield, for instance, is to play, let's say, Chouameni as CDM, play Bellingham as a center mid who is a lot more box to box, and then play Goulet in front of them as a 10, right?
That works.
So Goulet ends up in a lot more creative space without having to need the physicality for his defensive work. In that role, he needs a lot more technical ability, which is what he has now, and he's able to utilize that. Currently, you see Madrid, and it's like in that 10 creative space, you are not sure who is doing what there, because Bellingham is either also being dragged back with a lot more defensive work, sometimes had to be caught up in the press because the front three are not pressing properly. Modric is also losing sting. Like nobody expects Modric to be delivering
Mm,
23 assists a season anymore. And so clearly he's not the one you'd want to be relying on in, game out. Which begs the question of the kind of midfielder they need. Do they need a center mid? Do they need an attacking midfielder? What's the balance in there? Right. So I
yeah,
mean
so I mean,
it's
yeah, there are lots of questions. There are so many questions. I think he's going to make do with what he has, but I think just in terms of numbers, they may need to sign a midfielder. I think
yeah, they definitely need
they,
more
they,
numbers in there.
they need more numbers in there. Like there's talks of signing Enzo Fernandez from Chelsea. Should put 150 million on the table. We'll consider it because we have Andre Santos,
Ah,
who is coming in from Strasbourg. Strasbourg. If they want Andre Santos, that's 170.
you
Thank you.
guys you guys just want to make profit.
Yes,
Chelsea people had to put 150 million on the table for Enzo
we bought
Fernandez.
him for 100. So
You bought him for 100. They didn't ask you to go and buy him for 100.
okay,
You
so
bought him for 100.
we'll keep him. We'll keep him. Yeah, but
Keep him.
that's what I think. That's what I think about the squad in general.
Yeah, I had one final question before we end this session. Definitely, Madrid is rebuilding in anticipation of how they deal with Barcelona, right? And for any team that wants to deal with Barca, I think if you look at the Inter game, only once did Barca ever lead in those ties that they played. In the two games that they played, only once did Barca ever lead in the tie. And the main reason was Inter was able to hold off Barca defensively. They had a good defense that when they scored, they could protect their lead for a much longer time. An attribute that Madrid has not had against Barca. Look at the last El Clasico. You score two goals, and in the same half, they score and lead you 4-2.
No, but
How how
I
how do you end
disagree
up
with
there?
your antidote for Barcelona. It's quite clear that the key to defeating Barcelona is not necessarily like a stronger defense. Like the Inter defense was relatively stronger. I agree with your observation. I think the deduction is speculative because if you look at it, Inter still considered is it 7 goals, but they had to score
Yeah, they
eight.
did.
They had to
Mhm.
score eight. The key difference here is that Barcelona can score when they want, and it's your ability to also exploit their defense effectively and make do with your chances is what gives you the chance in the game.
Oh,
If you just
you're
want, if
right
you
with
want
that.
to defend, yes, if you want to defend, I think that this Barcelona team has a way. Like I don't disagree that a better defense against this Barca team will work. But if I look at the work that Inter putting in that game defensively, putting three players on Lam, and they still managed to score 6 goals overall at the end of the
This is
night,
exactly what I'm saying, right?
scary.
What I'm saying is that you would get your chances against Barca and score, but they would get their chances and score. The first approach, the first step to sort of beating Barca is minimize the number of goal scoring opportunities or the number of clear cut chances, the number of the El Clasico that they scored. They
No, I
just
understand. But
played.
you listen to
All
your
of the
first
goals were
premise.
down to defensive errors.
Your first premise was that you are going to get your chances and score, and then they are going to get their chances and score. I don't think
But
that
if you
that's what
assess
happened in a lot of.
Madrid, if you assess Madrid Barca games, a lot of them, and it's the same problem with Barca really. Barca has a good offense, but in the last later part of the season, they've had a very terrible defense. It's the same thing that cost them in the Inter game. But I think that you can't just rely on your attack to beat Barca. You
Yeah,
need to have a good defense.
but
You need to
do
have
you
a
know
solid
that
defense.
in all of those El Clasico games, like Real Madrid missed more chances than Barca. Like there are so many examples when Vinicius had an open goal, shot it wide. Like the thing with Barca is you need to take your chances. Obviously, next season I don't know what they are going to become, and obviously having a good defense is good. But if we're talking about a rebuild in response to Barcelona, yeah, then you can get
We all
where.
know that. Look, we all know that the rebuild in response to Barcelona is not going to be signing attacking options, right? Like
No,
they are
no,
not going to sign
no, I don't think
someone to replace Vini
yes.
or Mbappe or Bellingham or Rodrigo or something of that sort. What you are going to have is more of trying to seal the parts of the squad that they felt were depleted, right?
Mm.
And they couldn't match up to Barca. And for me, if Madrid had better defenders in this El Clasico, at least Barca would have had to do more work to get those 4 goals. At least.
I
Maybe
disagree.
they still end up scoring those 4 goals, but like some frivolous passes, misplaced pass in the defensive area, like somebody is slow to block a cross. Like sometimes very, very silly individual errors in the defensive area. Like if you have experienced defenders in this team, at least Barca has to do a lot more work to score, right? Like
No,
you're not frustrating them enough.
yeah, yeah. For me, like obviously, like I agree with you. If you make less mistakes, you don't concede more. But
Well, how do you
let's just
think Hansi Flick responds?
no. I think this Hansi Flick team. This is phase one. This is phase
Okay.
one because now the floodgates are open. People are believing in La Masia. People are believing in a Barcelona team. You have more sponsors coming on board. Not only that, they now have the opportunity if they want to add talent. They are at luxury because they know they have the talent in the academy. So now they are at a luxury to now say, "Oh, this is what we need. If we don't have it, we can go into the market to go and spend on it." So for me, I think they need like wing options to take the load of Lamine Yamal and also of Rafinha. I think in the middle of the pack, they are solid. In defense, they are probably also solid with the options that they have, except for maybe left back, where I think that they've had some problems with when Balde goes out. Martin is quite
Yeah.
brilliant, but still, defense wise, he still needs some work to do. But it doesn't even seem like it's a lot. And I think more firepower up front got with Lewandowski decreasing in age. Ferran Torres is good, but he doesn't give you the Lewandowski number of goals. So they might need
No.
to sign like a proper striker and then maybe a right winger to challenge Rafinha. And I think that they will have the money to spend. But also, I'm also scared there's probably some guy in the academy who can probably do this thing already. So I think that it will grow. But also, the players will learn from this season. Having won, is going to give them a lot of confidence. And it's also, they've also gotten a lot of match experience, especially going against these guys. And they are young, which means that physically they are going to develop and get better and know how to play the Hansi Flick game much
You know
better.
what came to mind? I was about to ask that, oh, would they be another Arsenal that we expect so much and then, no, he's already won a trophy.
No, he's won
Ateta
three.
hasn't.
He's won treble already. He's
He's
won.
won the league. Ateta
Don't,
hasn't.
don't be comparing
So
it, guys. Don't compare monkeys to this one. Lions.
Ateta, Arsenal fans come for Erasmus. He uses his London hate for Chelsea, for Arsenal, because a Chelsea supporter just comes after you. Then he'll finish and come and say, oh, he's one of the Ateta supporters in this world.
Oh, come on.
And
I've been fair to Mikel Arteta. I've been fair to him.
well,
Okay.
I'm the one who brings the situations for you to be unfair to him. So- but yeah, I have a feeling that teams are also learning to respond to Barca. And you see, the strategy that Flick picks works perfectly until it doesn't. And if you've noticed in El Clasicos, like you said,
Mhm.
Madrid have had several situations to punish them, but have failed to utilize those opportunities. And I think if you have a very clinical attack, like Inter's attack, where
Mm.
Barca starts to struggle because they concede a lot of chances. So the very high line that they play at the start of the season, the very first El Clasico that they played, how many offsides did Mbappe have? Like 9 or 10 or something, or
Mm.
15 offsides. Subsequently, those numbers significantly dropped
Yeah, but
because
that
as
was
it,
embarrassing. That like I wouldn't have expected him to have those numbers. Though
but
that was not the
as a
standard.
team,
That was not the standard.
as a team, they adapted, and you realize that in subsequent El Clasicos, the number of offsides against him and the team as a whole dropped.
Mm.
If you look at Inter, for instance, Inter were starting their offside attacks from their own box, which is
Mm.
a strategy they use to beat the Barca offside trap. Because then it means they are offside, they are after your defensive line, but it's in their own box. So they use the exclusivity in the rule to break the lines and still get away with it. And so if you have teams that are adapting to this, I'm interested in seeing how um, Flick adapts or responds to this likely adaptation from teams. I think the philosophies are going to be the same or even better. What I want to see is more of the execution of the philosophy. How does he execute it in a way that escapes the likely adaptation from other clubs? And I think that would be his biggest test yet, because every new coach coming into a big club and starting off so well. If you look at Ancelotti, for instance, at Liverpool, they tend to have this surprise element that teams need to take time to adapt to them.
Yes.
And then it forces these coaches to constantly evolve. It's a challenge Pep faced. That's why every single season you see Pep playing at some point in the season something wildly different from whatever he's used to, just to
Mm.
try and escape the adaptation of teams and catch them off the
Yeah.
surprise element again. And so for me, Hansi Flick has done brilliantly well. For him to, for me to start rating him as like Pep level elite, I want to see how he responds to the way in which teams are going to start adapting to his approach. And then see, that's where my excitement comes. Who becomes the better genius? Who beats that genius element that he's brought into Barcelona? So yeah.
I agree. I agree. I'm also looking forward to it. So we'll see how it goes.
It's sad that we don't look forward to something like that from Matete, but anyway, Arsenal fans are fine with it. So anyway, thanks everyone. Erasmus has been recording some solo episodes recently on some of the things that touch his heart. They went to lose, they went to lose against Newcastle, and he came to record a solo episode. I was wondering how the mood was. It's like, shit, we've lost. Charlie, let me go
Oh
and rant
no.
on podcast and see how it goes.
The one for Man United is coming up soon, so she's stay tuned.
Ah, you are doing an episode on United. Do you want me on the episode? Because these
No,
days,
no, 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 no.
oh, you don't want
They
me on
beg
the
you, they
episode.
beg you, they beg you.
Oh, United are a really good team. Oh. Like, they're
You,
really,
you,
really
you,
good,
you let them unsubscribe from the channel. We love our subscribers.
bro. Like, see, they brought a whole manager mid-season, and they were expecting to be in top four. Such a beautiful team.
Anyway,
But anyway, thanks for joining us on this episode. Let us know your thoughts on the things that we've discussed. Um, Ateta's role, obviously, in the EPL as the better manager has been solidified now. We've also talked about the FA Cup final, but more importantly, we want to know your thoughts on the Madrid rebuild and Hansi Flick's adaptation to the responses that other teams will try and be figuring out mid-season to them. So let's see how these things go. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye, everyone.